give her a hand.
Thank you. I don't know if I have a lot to say. Mostly because y'all scare the heck out of me. Even though I know y'all would like have my back. You guys are scary. As you know,
you have family.
Thank you. As you know, I am the boy Finicum's daughter. I am one of his 8 daughters, one of his 11 children. If you don't know who the boy Finicum was, he was an American patriot who was assassinated by our federal government January 26th, 2016 of this year, I guess. Fix it. Close and talk loud. Close and talk loud. You guys can hear me now? Okay. Should I hold it? Okay. All right. I have heard many people tell me it is because he did not comply at a routine traffic stop that he was killed, because he possessed a threat to law enforcement officers. Tell me, the last time you were pulled over, was there a dead man's roadblock, and were there snipers in the trees? No? Yeah, that's not normal? Okay, so then that's a bogus story, right? So why did then the government decide to assassinate a man that came out of a truck with his hands up? And to add insult to injury, they shot him in the back. They couldn't even look him in the eye. So why? They are cowards, completely agree. But I'm going to tell you why, an illustration. I'm going to teach you something that I find very important, something that my dad did. So let me get my notes because you guys are scaring me again. All right. By a show of hands, I want you guys to tell me how many of you own a home or land, a vehicle, motorcycle. All right, a lot of you. Okay, how many of you actually own that? Like, if you do not pay taxes on your property, how long are you going to keep it? If you do not pay your annual fees and taxes on your vehicle and register, how long are you going to actually be able to drive it? Yeah. So we're kind of like renting from the government, which would make us their servants in a way. In England, they had a system. You had the noblemen who basically would rent out land to tenants that they had to pay rent on, they never owned, and then the lords who owned this land would then go to the House of Lords and make laws. How fairly represented do you think these little people were? Not represented at all? Really? What do we have now?
That's what we have now. Same thing.
That's what we have now. We don't own anything. How many of you were fined last tax season for not having insurance on your own personal self? Me? I was. My husband was. We have 4 kids. We can't afford health insurance. And so then, because we can't afford health insurance, we are now taxed again and fined. I'm grateful that it stops at fines. I mean, we would have been thrown in prison otherwise. We have, right now, how many political prisoners are we up to? I'm losing count. They keep throwing more in. My dad was murdered because he would not bow down.
That's right.
He told them in a video that he defies them. For the longest time, my dad has had a great relationship with the BLM. We have a ranch, a family ranch. He's had a great relationship. Never late on his taxes, always paid the fees. And then the Bundys happened. How many of you have heard about the Bundys? All right. At least I'm an educated bunch. That's so nice. So he went up to the Bundys. And many of you don't know this, but Cliven was trying to figure out what to do. They had taken his cows. They had threatened his family. And my dad had quietly gone and talked to me and said, Cliven, if you don't get your cows, you're just the first one of many. And he's like, you have to stand. And he's like, my dad said, I will stand with you. My dad was someone, he would stand with you. He would stand behind you. He would stand in front of you. But he could not stand for you. And so they got the cows, obviously. My dad comes home, continues ranching, life goes on. We've won the West, hurrah. And my dad starts thinking, as he's paying, his fees to the BLM, to the federal government, to the state, he's like, I own this permit, and I'm paying them for it. He's like, how can I preach? Stand up. Take control. Like, be an American. Don't bow down. And yet here I am, doing it. So my dad basically fired the BLM. Says, I don't need your help. Thank you very much. You've been a pain in the anyways. And he stopped paying. Well, the letters start coming, the fees start happening, and my dad says, well, you're illegal. I have a constitution, and I'm pretty sure I'm right. So, do what you want. Here I stand. Then the Hammonds happened up in Oregon. In January, my dad was supposed to come down to Texas to stay with me for a couple of weeks because he had written a book that he wanted Americans to read so that they would feel motivated to either spend more time with their families, get right with God, stock more ammunition and bullets or food, or whatever it was. He wanted that book to inspire them to do more. And it's a fictional book, but I cried a lot. But he did it. And I called him and I was like, Dad, did you hear about this Hammond thing? He's like, yeah. I was like, well, are you still coming down or are you going up? He's like, well, they've chosen not to stand, so I can't stand for them. And I was like, okay, see you in like a week. I'm super excited. And I'm a daddy's girl if you haven't guessed by now. I called my mom that next week and be like, hey, where's Dad? She's like, he's up in Oregon. I was like, what the? He's supposed to be down in Texas. That's like the wrong part of the country. In a lot of ways, more than one. It's the wrong part of the country. And I wasn't able to talk to my dad after that. Because he was so busy teaching so many people. That's all he did. He would call home my mom. He's like, I have never taught so much in my life. From sunup to sundown. He's trying to get in his sleeping bag and go to sleep. He still has people talking to him like, teach me. And he did. And the day that he died, I got a text from my dad. And I was like so excited. It's been like a whole stinking month. And I was just like so excited. I told him I'd gone to Mexico to Cabo for vacation and I wasn't kidnapped. That was a highlight. Because I'm kind of a pansy. And I was like, my family's doing so great. We're starting to do family meals. And I was just telling him how awesome it was. And he's like, that's so wonderful, daughter. Don't forget to pray. And I was like, oh yeah, I love you, Dad. And then 6 hours later, my phone starts blowing up, and I'm like, oh man, my siblings are at it again. And I was like, oh, we'll finish this show, and then I'll, see what this is about. And I just happened to be watching a federal FBI conspiracy TV show, and so then I start reading my text. I'm like, either I've been watching too much TV, or something just happened. And lo and behold, it was my dad that was murdered. I have heard countless times, I would have been there, but I have children. I would have been there, but I have a business or other personal responsibilities. My dad had 11 children, 19 grandchildren, and little did he know, 5 on the way. He had a ranch. We had cows missing. He needed to be out there gathering cows. Yet he was in Oregon standing for his neighbor that he had never met. This might offend some people, but I'm a little past caring. No offense. But if I hear one more time that I would have done something, but I had children, do not hide behind your children, because one day, if you keep hiding, they will feel the chains of slavery so tight that they will look up to you and resent you.
Yes, ma'am. Here, here.
Yes, ma'am. You go. I was so angry at my dad I was so angry at him for leaving me to stand for someone else. But little did I know that he was standing for me and for my children.
Yes, he was.
The chains of slavery bind us. It just is a matter of how tightly you feel them right now.
Right.
They are there, and they are tightening. So if you do not stand now, they will be so tight that your ability to throw them off will be little to none. And it will be on your hands, the blood of patriots and Americans, and probably your children.
Hear, hear.
So tell me where you draw the line. We live in Texas. We understand what that line means. So you better draw one, and you better stand. Because my dad already did, my family is. Come October, the BLM has told my family that we are not allowed to put our cows back on the range because they do not recognize my mother as owner and fees that need to be paid or whatever. Come hell or high water, that is our land, and they will be back on the ranch October.
Yay.
Please find your line and please stand. I'm grateful for all of you all here today, for the love my family has felt. My dad often quoted this: when a man stands for freedom, he stands with God. And were he to stand alone, he would still stand with God. What more do we honestly need? I was hoping that in this case it would mean they would protect his life. God would protect his life. That did not happen. But God, you have to have faith that God will take care of it. Because of many of you here and many more across the world, my mom has been able to financially stay afloat. My mom's paying $6,000 a month right now for hay on feed because BLM is giving her heck. But it's because of many of you and your generosity that she has been able to pay that and stay afloat. And many of the political prisoners' families. So thank you for being God's hand in so many ways. God bless America.
Thank you.